You cannot delegate your decision-making authority as a judge. You're the one who takes the oath. You're the one that has to hear all that evidence and make a decision. Some of our judges don't like to have those trials and don't like to make decisions, but you have to. That is what we're required to do, is take that evidence and hear it. You can't just listen in a motion hearing and make a determination if one parent is actually trying to alienate the child from the other parent.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jori Spangler, and I am the president of SNAWA, and I want to welcome you to our last Judicial Candidate Forum. I know I've enjoyed getting to know the candidates, and I have been getting a lot of very positive feedback from other people as well. I just have a few announcements to make. On November 5th, we are having our virtual lunch, and it is going to be e-discovery. So if you can make it, I think it's a CLE one too, if I remember right. Yes, Alex is shaking her head. It's a CLE. So if you are interested, please sign up for that. On November 17th is our virtual Shearing Gala. 100% of the money that we raise goes to scholarships. This year we gave 5 $2,500 scholarships to women law students at UNLV. We are also going to be having a silent auction. This year, because it's not in person, it just has a donate button. So you can donate 25, 50, 100, 1,000 if you would like. But we are asking for donations. Like I said, all the money goes to the scholarships. On December 3rd is going to be our charity virtual luncheon, and we will be sending out information about that. And in January, we're going to be having our substance abuse CLE, and that's Justice Cherry is going to be involved in that. And on December 14th at 4 p.m., we're going to be having a virtual happy hour. So those are those upcoming things. I want to thank our sponsors, Nevada State Bank, Northwestern Mutual, Worldwide Litigation, and the executives, and a special shout out to Alex and Brittany from our Nevada judges who have been recording all of this for us and posting it on their page and our page and circulating it. And we've been getting a lot of people listening and learning about the various judges. So I think this has been a really wonderful opportunity. And thank you so much to our Nevada judges for doing this for us. I will turn it over to Alexis, who has just a couple of announcements, and then we will go on with the candidate forum.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jori. Yes, and thank you to everyone who is here today, all of our candidates that have shown up today, to everyone who is watching either online, on Facebook, or on YouTube now. We appreciate you hanging out with us until the very end. We're in the very last push until voting day comes next week. There's still early voting tomorrow, and I will be doing that. I was actually waiting for this last forum to see if there were any decisions that I might make because of it, and I have, and I will. So I like that. One announcement I do have, I also sit on the board of the Clark County Law Foundation, and I have announced it at the other forums. We have selected Ogana Brown and Karen Bennett Herron as our Liberty Bell Award winners for 2020, and our event is on the 19th of, I always get the date wrong. Why do I always get the date wrong? It's the Tuesday or the Thursday that our event is not for SNAWA on the 19th. I always get it wrong. But anyway, it's going to be a crazy week that week for me. So that's when our event is. If you want to attend that, we would love to have you there. Also, the Liberty Bell art contest is still going on. The deadline for submissions is coming up on the 2nd. So for art contest submissions for celebrating the 100th anniversary of the 19th Amendment. Again, yes, thank you, Jori. Thank you so much to our Nevada judges for broadcasting today. Thank you. We're almost there. The rules here are simple. They have been the same all along. Our candidates will each get 4 minutes. If they go past their 4 minutes, I will call time and then they will be muted. And then we'll go ahead and move on to the spotlight of the next candidate. If anyone has any questions for any of our candidates, they can either put them in the chat box publicly, or they can message privately to myself, to Dee Sol, or to Pamela Jones, who are board members of ours. So if you don't want someone to know that you asked a particular question, that's fine. You can send them to us privately and we'll make sure that they get asked. After everyone has gone, we'll get to questions. Answers to questions will be limited to 60 or 90 seconds. And then that way we can get through all of them. And without further ado, we'll go ahead and move to our first candidate. So today we have candidates from Family Court Departments U, W, X, Z, and Las Vegas Justice Court Department 12, and North Las Vegas Justice Court Department 3. We have candidates from all of those. So we'll get started with our district court, our Family Court Department U, first with Bill Gonzalez, who I did see in here. So Mr. Gonzalez, will spotlight your video, and let me just pull up my handy dandy timer here. And if you can go ahead and start, and just one last rule, of course, I wanted to make sure I said it on air. Candidates, please be sure to speak about your own selves. Our viewers want to hear about why you are the most qualified person. And if they have other questions, they'll be sure to ask them, because we have had some interesting questions be asked. So in any event, Mr. Gonzalez, you can go ahead and speak about your candidacy for Family Court Department U starting now.
Thank you, Alexis. This is Attorney Bill Gonzalez. I'm running for Family Court Department U. I've been happily married for 33 years to my wife, Anna Maria. We have 4 children, ages 20 to 32, and 2 adoring grandchildren, granddaughters. Granddaughters are absolutely the best. In 2009, I went through the judicial selection process. I was nominated as one of the top 3 candidates, having my experience in the courtroom and in the community vetted. I was later submitted to the governor, and I was appointed to serve in Family Court Department F, and I served there from 2009 to 2014. In January 2010, I had approximately 800 open family law cases. By January 2014, that was down to about 410 open cases. I was able to achieve that by coming to the courthouse early, many nights staying late, being prepared in the courtroom, and also being fair with the litigants and the attorneys before me. Prior to being a judge, I represented 2,000 children down in juvenile delinquency court. Many of my clients were victims of sex trafficking. There was domestic violence, substance abuse, there was mental health issues, and I fought tirelessly to help those children receive the treatment and the services that they need so they would never end up in the adult system. Currently, I serve as a court-appointed attorney for parents in the abuse and neglect system when the children are in foster care. I've represented about 1,000 parents there. Many of them are homeless, have some of the same issues, mental health issues, domestic violence, substance abuse. You may know that there's 6 brand new family court seats. I'm running in Department U, one of them. 2 of those seats will be for abuse and neglect court. That is where my heart is. If I have the opportunity to be back on the bench, that's where I'd like to serve and to help those families that are in greater need in our community. As far as my community service, I served as a vice chair of the City of Las Vegas Housing Authority for 4 years, where I fought for affordable housing for our senior citizens, our veterans, low-income families. I also served on the UNLV clinical board for 5 years as a judge. All 5 of my law clerks when I was on the bench were from UNLV. 4 of them were women. I had one of the most diverse departments in family court. That's something that is very important to me. Other than that, I have been endorsed by many organizations and leaders in our community. I've been endorsed by 10 board certified family law specialists that have been in my courtroom, have seen me in the courthouse as far as my work, and they're supporting me. I've been endorsed by our sheriff, our DA, by all major law enforcement in actually Clark County, all the firefighters, Nevada, and many. I have great bipartisan support. I feel it a privilege to serve in the community. I think experience is very important, but experience alone doesn't make you a good judge. Being a good person makes you a good judge. Saying that you're fair and you will treat people with respect doesn't make you a good judge, but actually treating people fairly and with respect is what makes you a good judge. I went to court every day when I was on the bench to help families. My goal as a judge in family court was not to make these important decisions for families, but to allow them to make these decisions that are going to affect their lives, their children, their financial future. And I became very good at doing that. I'd like to bring my many years
Thank you so much for your time. That is our 4 minutes on that one. And it looks like your opponent for Department U is Dawn Throne, who is present with us today. We'll spotlight Dawn's video. Dawn, thank you so much for joining us. Looks like you've unmuted yourself. Dawn, you can go ahead and speak about your candidacy for Department U, starting now.
Thank you. Thank you to SNAWA for putting this forum on, and for all of you and taking the time out of your day to learn about these judicial candidates. My name is Dawn Throne. I'm candidate for Family Court Department U, one of the 6 new open seats. For the last 24 years, I have practiced family law here and represented hundreds of people in their family law litigation. I'm also one of only 48 family law specialists in the state of Nevada, which means I have a broad range of experience in all areas of family law. But the first 9 years of my practice, I also worked for large civil firms where I did complex civil litigation, probate and trust, personal injury, contract disputes. My first trial was a contract dispute in front of Judge Lohr. So I've done every kind of case and every kind of issue that will appear in family court. I've also served as a pro tem hearing master for domestic violence. I've been a fee dispute arbitrator for the last 17 years. I am on the Southern Nevada Discipline Board for the last 3 years, and I am the vice chair of the committee on the child support guidelines, which undertook the huge task of rewriting the guidelines that cover and decide how much child support parents pay. I'm a small business owner and an employer for the last 12 years. I moved here to Nevada to help my grandparents and my great-grandmother. Family is very important to me. I have my own 14-year-old daughter here who goes to public school in Clark County, and I have been a stepmom to several stepchildren. I've been divorced. I've been a co-guardian for my great-grandmother. So I know what it's like to be a litigant in family court and how scary that process can be and what is needed to be a good family court judge. I also have bipartisan support. Both Leslie Cohen, Assemblywoman Leslie Cohen, and Senator Keith Picard, who both practice family law and who have very wide range of political views, both endorse me as the most qualified candidate for this. And I'm asking for your vote for Family Court Department U. Thank you.
Thank you, John. All right, so next up is Department W, and first on our list here is Adriana Rincon White. Thank you so much, Adriana. You can go ahead and begin speaking about your candidacy for Family Court Department W, starting, hold on, timer right now.
Thank you, Alexis, and thank you to SNAWA for hosting these judicial forums and to our Nevada judges for transmitting them. My name is Adriana Rincon White. I am a candidate for Family Court Judge in Department W. I am married to a high school teacher and a mom to 2 kids, currently 4 and 7 years old, who attend public school. I understand the families who come through family court because just like many of them, I am a working parent raising children as well. I currently serve the community as a hearing master in dependency court. I was appointed to this judicial position in 2018 by Chief Judge Linda Bell on the recommendation of the majority of family court judges. I hear cases from the time children are taken into protective custody until they are either reunified with their parents or caregiver, or parental rights are terminated. I also preside over adoption, guardianship hearings, and special immigrant juvenile petitions involving children in foster care. One of my biggest responsibilities is presiding over termination of parental rights trials, which, as you know, is the equivalent of the civil death penalty. In addition to my legal duties, I have experience managing courtroom staff, running a stacked calendar, and managing a courtroom filled with very emotional parties appearing in court under the worst of circumstances. Most importantly, I have demonstrated my time on the bench that I can make legally sound decisions in a timely fashion. Regardless of the circumstances that bring families into my courtroom, whether it be the commission of a violent act against a child, homelessness, drug addiction, etc., I treat people with compassion. That, I believe, is an important trait all family court judges should have. I am now running for judge so that I can continue service to my community and assisting families reach closure when enduring difficulties such as divorce, custody, or whatever else brings them through the family court doors. I have been an attorney for 12 years, and in the 10 years that I worked as an attorney, I represented over 1,400 clients in family court, involving matters from complex asset issues to difficult custody or relocation cases, but also cases involving your joint petitions. In family law, I truly have done it all. I received my first judicial appointment in 2012 and received other appointments after that. For 2 years, I served as a truancy diversion judge, and for 4 years, I served as a pro tem hearing master in child support enforcement court. To the bench, I bring much needed compassion, hard work, decisiveness, and most importantly, cultural diversity. I have been endorsed by law enforcement, veterans, teachers, labor unions, including the largest in the state, which is the Culinary Union. Also bartenders, electrical workers, sheet metal workers, theatrical stage employees, carpenters, independent Black voters, the Latin Chamber of Commerce, and Hispanic in politics, to name just a few. I also have been endorsed by many respected members of the family bar, such as Ishi Kunin, Jim Jimerson, Frank Tody, and Emily McFarland. I greatly appreciate your time and the opportunity to reach voters, and I'm asking for your vote, Adriana Rincon White, Family Court Judge, Department W. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Adriana. That was great. Up next in Department W is Stacy Rocheleau, and I'll welcome Stacy. You can go ahead again. If anybody has any questions or anything that they would like to ask of any of our candidates or of all of the candidates in family court, you can leave those questions in the chat box or send them to me privately or to Pam Jones or to Diesel privately. All right, Stacy, you can go ahead and begin to speak about your candidacy for Department W starting now.
Thank you, Alexis, and thank you to SNAWA for this opportunity to tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Stacy Rocheleau, and I'm running to be your family court judge in Department W. I've been an attorney for almost 2 decades, and I practice primarily in family law. That's really where my heart is, and I've done everything from divorce, custody, child support, alimony, complex asset division, business valuations, division of debts, anything you can think of in family law, I have done in my 20 years. I grew up here in Las Vegas. I've been in Las Vegas for 40 years, and I'm married to an Air Force veteran. I've been married for 27 years. I've raised 3 children here, and they all go to public schools. And I think that raising a family here really gives me a unique perspective when dealing with family law cases. I do have judicial experience. I was appointed the Discovery Commissioner Pro Tem in 2017, and I was a truancy diversion judge for 3 years. Let's see, I have several honors and awards. I was voted the best divorce lawyer by the Las Vegas Review-Journal Reader Poll for 3 years in a row, and I have a perfect rating on AVO. I have a 10.0. For my endorsements, I've been endorsed by fire, by police, by labor unions, by veterans, and I also have bipartisan support. I've been endorsed by the Democratic Women's Association, as well as the Nevada Republican Club, and I've also been endorsed by both newspapers, the Las Vegas Review-Journal and the Las Vegas Sun. So thank you for allowing me to tell you a little bit about myself. I'm Stacy Rocheleau, and I'm running for Department W in family court. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Stacy. With that, we will move on to Department X. First up, we have Heidi Almase.
My name is Heidi Almase. I'm a former City of Las Vegas judge. I'm running for Family Court Department X. My mom and I moved to Las Vegas in 1979. I went to school here. I dropped out of high school. I worked my way through college as a custodian for the Clark County School District. I attended UNLV. I earned my bachelor's and Master of Arts in Clinical Psychology. I also graduated from the William S. Boyd School of Law's charter class in 2001. For the past 20 years, I've been serving this community, first as a state police officer, later as a prosecutor and judge. I also had my own law firm. I took that opportunity to volunteer my time with the Children's Attorney Project and the Women in Need Diversion Program. That's a diversionary program in the city of Las Vegas dedicated to women who've been involved in sexual trafficking who also have addiction issues. As a city court judge, I started the city's first mental health court. It is the only diversion program in the state of Nevada to earn national recognition during its first year of operation. For the last 3 years, I've been working at family court, where I work on an average of 200 to 300 cases per month. That's approximately 6,000 hours dedicated exclusively to family law. For the past 20 years, I have practiced civil, criminal, and family law. There's not a single day that goes by I don't use my experience in all 3 areas in family court. We see folks who have substance abuse issues. They may have a mental health issue, a criminal matter, or a civil matter. All of those types of cases can impact your family court case. I'm honored to have been endorsed by the majority of our Nevada labor groups, including our culinary and teachers unions, our first responders, and veterans. I've also been the child of a single mom and am myself a single parent. I know the pain of deciding to divorce. I know the joys and challenges of blending a family. I know how important it is to successfully co-parent with your former partner. Because I've been in family court, I understand how challenging it can be and how important the decisions are. Decisions that are made that follow the law, timely, efficiently, but also compassionately. If you want more information on my campaign, you can go to Heidi Almase, the number 4judge.com, or Heidi Almase for Family Court on Facebook. I sure appreciate the opportunity to speak to all of you, and I hope I've earned your vote. Thanks so much.
So much, Heidi. Appreciate that. Up next, your opponent in Family Court Department X is Jim Davis. I'll pull up Mr. Davis's video. Welcome, Mr. Davis. We'll go ahead and give you your 4 minutes to speak about your candidacy in Family Court Department X, starting now.
Oh, thank you. And thank you for hosting this event. It's a valuable resource to our voters out there. I am Jim Davis. I'm running for Family Court in Department X. I was born at Stead Air Force Base up in Reno, which is now the Reno International Airport. And after high school and college, I followed in my father's footsteps and joined the Air Force. I served in the Air Force for 20 years, and that's what brought me back to Nevada back in 1989, almost to the day. So I've been here in Clark County now for 31 years. When I returned from combat operations in northern Iraq, I graduated from Boyd School of Law. And Boyd School of Law was a tremendous benefit to me as I went through law school, because I was part of the 2nd, 3rd, and 5th classes at Boyd. My legal studies were interrupted by 2 activations, one to Kosovo and one to Iraq after 9/11. And the reason that's important is because I bring the traits that I learned in the military to my family law practice, and I intend to bring them to the court as a family court judge in Department X. And those are dedication to duty, diligent preparation, and a commitment to serve. Since graduating from Boyd, I got my clerkship with Judge Pomerantz. I think I saw her in the room. And I was a law clerk for her for about 1.5 years. I was then recruited by Ishi Cunin, probably one of the best family law attorneys in the state, and worked for her for 5 years. And that's where I honed my litigation skills. Then I opened my own law practice. So I'm also a business owner, and I've worked, had a number of employees. I'm a sole practitioner now. And in that time, since I've been had my own practice, I've helped over 1,000 families, and I've done countless trials, evidentiary hearings, motion hearings, general appearances. And as I said, I've helped over 1,000 families. And experience matters in the family court, and litigation experience matters in the family court, because the decisions you make on day one can last a lifetime, if not for a generation. I'm also a pro tem hearing master in child support enforcement court. I've been doing that for about 8 years. And I have my master's degree in organizational management. So I plan on bringing some of those skills and to the court. And I thank you for your time, and I'll entertain any questions you have, and I'll place my endorsements in the chat.
Thank you so much, Jim. You know, the family court judges have all been very efficient for the most part in this, in our candidate forum. So up next, we have Family Court Department Z, our last Family Court Department, last but not least, of course. And first up is Shell Mercer is the first candidate in that department. There is Shell's video. Thank you so much, Shell. Again, if anyone has any questions, they can feel free to post them in the chat box or send them to me or Pam Jones or B Soul privately. All right, Shell, we will go ahead and give you your 4 minutes to speak about your candidacy for Department Z starting now.
Thank you to Sawa for this opportunity, and thank you also to our Nevada judges that they have they've spent countless hours preparing information, gathering information, reporting information about the candidates. And it's so important for voters to be informed, especially in family court where the stakes are so high. Just as I said, my name is Shell Mercer, and I am a candidate for Family Court Judge Department Z. And I have lived in Nevada for 32 years. Came from Texas. I'm the daughter of an Air Force veteran, so we travel around quite a bit. And I have been married for 23 years to a recently retired Las Vegas Metropolitan Police officer. And we've raised 2 fabulous children who are currently in college. And they were raised, we brought them up through the public school system here in Clark County. I have been practicing law for 22 years, primarily in the area of family law. And I have represented countless clients in every aspect of family law that there is. But in addition to my experience representing clients and being in the courtroom presenting cases to the judges, I've also been a pro tem hearing master, actually sitting on the bench and deciding cases. So I have actual experience as a judge as well. And I've presided over more than 4,000 hearings in multiple disciplines, including juvenile delinquency, juvenile dependency, child support, minor guardianship, domestic violence, drug court, civil commitment, and discovery. So I have a great deal of experience actually presiding over cases as well. I've had my own law practice for, well, since 2009, so that's 11 years, so a long time. And I've also worked as an associate. I understand all of the dynamics that go into the family, which are very unique and very, very different from other cases that you would find over at the other courthouse in civil and criminal matters. They're far more complex, in my opinion, much more important, because there's no other courtroom, no other judge that's going to more personally affect your lives. And by that, it would create a ripple effect to other areas of the community as well. I actually won the primary election with greater than 40% of the votes in a race of 4 candidates. And I have been endorsed by law enforcement and the firefighters and the Las Vegas Review-Journal, as well as labor, including the Teamsters and the Southern Nevada Building Trades Union, the sheet metal workers, the Southern Nevada Central Labor Council, AFL-CIO, and the Asian American group, and multiple other groups as well. I'm honored for their endorsement. And I believe that the courtroom and the row belong to the people who have paid for it, and that's you. So I'm asking for you to hire me to serve you, because I am passionate about serving families and children.
And last but not least, in family court up for Department Z is Romeo Perez. This video. Perfect. All right, Romeo, Mr. Perez, you can go ahead and speak on your candidacy for Department Z starting now.
Thank you. I want to thank Alexis and Snawa for this opportunity. I got to tell you, I'm really disappointed that I didn't get lunch. I was looking over the email and I noticed that this is supposed to be a luncheon. I feel a little duped. So I can't wait to get back together and do this in person. You know what? I'm running for family court judge in Department Z. I want to be your first judge in Department Z. you know, I was approached by my colleagues. I was approached by other people who said, hey, you know what? There's an opportunity here to be the first judge in one of the 6 new family courts. And I was encouraged by people who came and said, you would be great at this. And I think that I agreed, and I decided to run. And I decided to run because I've had 22 years of experience, not only in family law, which has been my focus, but in families, because people who walk through my door don't care about, they come in and they're upset to see me. Nobody's ever happy to see me. They have a problem and they need it fixed, and they want it done as quickly and efficiently as possible. I have helped families in all areas of family law, not just divorce, child support, and child custody, but guardianship, grandparents' rights, juvenile justice, even the abuse, neglect, and termination of parental rights. I have helped families from intake to trial, and that's really important because I routinely do 8 to 10 trials a year. As a matter of fact, I've done 5 trials since quarantine. I just got off of a trial this morning by video. This is where we're going. This is where we are. Families shouldn't have to wait for justice for a quarantine to be over. So I'm one of the several attorneys in family law who's doing these by video. That's important because trial experience is different than just motion hearings. You have to present evidence. There's so much workup. And as the attorneys know, a lot of the workup is done before. And then we have to present the cases. So trial experience is very important because judges are having to make those decisions. We make evidentiary decisions. We make decisions based on looking at people and looking at and deciding credibility. Those are things that I've been doing for over 22 years in a number of areas of law. So as my family practice grew and as my families grew, they had problems. They had problems with their criminal cases like DUIs and domestic violence. Sometimes they even come in with those cases. Sometimes they come in with car accident cases or even traffic tickets. I've helped families in all areas of law that affect families. And I believe that's important because families don't come to family court in a bubble. They come in with a myriad of problems, and those problems need to be taken care of. And at least a judge has to know what those issues are and how to deal with those issues when they come. I'll make a good judge because when family matters, experience counts. So it's important for a judge to not only understand family law, but understand where families come from. I'm the most qualified in my race because of my diversity of experience and my years of practice in front of the court doing motions and trials, and as a business owner for over 22 years. And I'm a member of the community, and I enjoy giving back. My family and I, we volunteer at different places around town. I'm the religious leader for my Boy Scouts group. I'm involved with my daughter's Girl Scouts. So we're all around involved in the community. And this being family court judge is my next step into serving the family, serving the public and the community, which has given me so much. I want to be your first judge in Department Z, and I'm asking for your support. I've been endorsed by SEIU. I've been endorsed by Culinary Union. I've endorsed by Central Labor, AFL-CIO. I've been endorsed by the Clark County Firefighters. I've also been endorsed by cool people like the Nevada Political Action for Animals, Veterans Association, Prosecutors Association, which are the people who bring cases for the abuse and neglect.
It looks like we're getting some good questions. So thank you guys for that are posting questions. Appreciate that. We will now move on to Las Vegas Justice Court, Department 12. First up is Judge Diana Sullivan.
Hello. Okay.
Give us 1 second so I can spotlight your video. There we go. All right. Judge Sullivan, you can go ahead and speak about your candidacy for Las Vegas Justice Court Department 12, starting now.
I'm going to start my own timer so you don't have to cut me off. Hopefully not. I am Judge Diana Sullivan. I am in the Las Vegas Justice Court Department 12. I am the very last person on the entire ballot if you have a Las Vegas address. I see Belinda Harris from North Las Vegas candidacy on this call as well. At this juncture, I could probably introduce Belinda for 4 minutes, and she could probably introduce me for 4 minutes. We've had so many candidate forums, so I'm glad we're rounding third base and coming home. I was born and raised in Las Vegas. I went to Western High School. I went to the University of Nevada, Reno. And then back then we didn't have a law school in Nevada. So I went to the University of San Diego and graduated there in 1992. I returned to Las Vegas to practice law. I started at a very old law firm in Nevada, Jones, Close & Brown, which eventually merged with Vargas and Bartlett to make Jones Vargas. I became a partner there eventually. I was there for 12 years. Then I opened up my own law firm with one other female. We both had young kids at the time, and we really wanted to dictate our own schedules and our own destiny. So we opened up our own law firm, which was very successful. So after practicing law for 16 years, I decided to run for the Justice Court bench. It was a new seat in 2008. I was elected in 2008, and I was again elected in 2014. All of my background is civil. So when I was first elected, they assigned me a full civil docket to try to get our arms around the civil docket in Justice Court. So I did a civil docket for a year, but I've been doing a criminal docket for the last 10 or 11 years. I was the criminal presiding judge from 2015 to 2018. I'm also the chair of the Las Vegas Rules Committee, the Justice Court Rules Committee. I am a member of the Clark County Coordinating Council, the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council. And as part of that, I was the chair of the Initial Appearance Court Committee, which we're actually very proud of. It was our very first large task for the council. And we now, based upon the Initial Appearance Court that sees new arrestees 7 days a week, 365 days a year, we see criminal defendants after their arrest within about 24 hours now, instead of 72 business hours, which was prior to 2019. So we're very proud of that. At the Initial Appearance Court, the defendants are appointed counsel, and we make custody and release determinations. Recently, I'm also very honored to be one of 2 judges in all of Clark County to be invited onto Tick Sager-Bloom's team. We call it the Red Team. It is a team that's studying racial and ethnic disparity in the criminal justice system. So we are tasked with reviewing, analyzing, and hopefully making recommendations on various topics of the criminal justice system, from arrest to discharge of sentencing. I'm also the 2020 president of the Nevada Judges of Limited Jurisdiction, which are all the municipal court judges and justice court judges from around the state. There's 87 of us. It's been a very challenging year, giving all of the eviction moratoriums and limitations to help guide our judges on that end. And that entity also chose me as their Judge of the Year in 2017 for all of the work that I've done for the statewide organization over the last several years, as well as our Justice Court. When I'm not on the bench or doing legal things, I mentor with the Clark County School District. I mentor at-risk seniors at Title I schools. I have 2 kids that were raised in the Clark County School District and now go to college in Los Angeles. And I'm married to Sean Sullivan, and he is a practicing attorney. And I am at 355.
Thank you, Judge Sullivan. Thank you. And I think there's been multiple people that have had their own timers, just to be sure. All right. So your opponent in for Las Vegas Justice Court Department 12 is Shannon Clowers. Shannon did not register for today's event, so we will move on to North Las Vegas Justice Court Department 3. Let's see, Judge Lee is an incumbent in that department, but did not register for the event. We do have Belinda Harris here, so we will give Belinda her 4 minutes for North Las Vegas Justice Court Department 3. All right, so Belinda, we'll go ahead and you can start your 4 minutes starting now.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. My name is Belinda T. Harris, and shout out to Judge Sullivan, because I could do your 4 minutes and you could absolutely do my 4 minutes. So my name is Belinda T. Harris. That's a BTH, and that stands for Bold, Tough, and Honest. And I'm your candidate for North Las Vegas Justice Court Department number 3. Currently, I am a Chief Deputy Public Defender here in Clark County. I am a career public defender. As a public defender, what I do on a daily basis is I protect and serve us, all Americans. I protect and serve the Constitution to make sure that all of our rights are being protected. It's not a job that I take lightly. I'm a Las Vegas native, and I particularly grew up here in North Las Vegas. So North Las Vegas is the community that molded and raised me into the person I am today. And to whom much is given, much is expected and required. And that's why I put my name on the ballot for November 2020 general election to run in North Las Vegas. I believe that when we have necessities, when all people have necessities, which is clothing, food, shelter, that makes society better as a whole. And as a public defender, I stand with those people who have society has deemed or try to cast in one light or another. But I think that if we are taking care of society as a whole, then we would be better as individuals, and society would be better. So as North Las Vegas Justice of the Peace, I will continue to serve and protect our communities. Once again, Belinda T. Harris, BTH, Bold, Tough, and Honest. I appreciate having this forum. I'm not going to take up the 4 minutes because you guys, this has been a long year. We've all been campaigning extremely hard. I know everybody has heard my spiel a million times, so much so a sitting judge can repeat mine and I can repeat hers. But what I want to tell you is this: local elections do matter. So start at the bottom of your ballot. If you're in North Las Vegas, my name is the very last race on your ballot. So start at the bottom and work your way to the top, because if you don't start at the bottom, we won't be able to get to the top. All the people on this last forum, forum number 5 here on October 29th, we're all at the bottom of the ballot. So please make sure you start at the bottom of the ballot and work your way up, because local elections matter. You're more likely to come in contact with me as a justice of the peace and a police officer than you are anybody at the top of your ballot. So let's make sure that we keep North Las Vegas and the rest of our courts together. Start at the ballot. Local elections matter. Belinda T. Harris, Bold, Tough, and Honest, your candidate for North Las Vegas Justice Court Department number 3. Thank you.
That was great. And I am a firm believer. Yes, this is why I have been so passionate and trying to get all this done for all of SNAWA members and our viewers, because these elections, what happens, you know, the presidency, of course, is incredibly important. What happens in the White House is incredibly important, but what is going on in our local courthouses, in our very own backyards, is almost more important, because yes, we're going to run into those people. These are judges that live and work in our community and make decisions about our lives. So knowing who you're voting for is huge. All right, well, we do have some questions, which is fantastic. And so some of them are, let's see, some of them are kind of about, you know, maybe would be more appropriate for judges, but I think what we can do is kind of go through and ask a few people a few of the questions, or maybe put it up to, you know, who wants to answer the question. So these are family court questions. The first one is going to be how, and since none of you are sitting judges at this point in these departments, these are the new family court departments, how would you handle cases involving allegations of parental alienation? What does this best interest of the child mean? And does a family court judge get any further education specific to handling family court cases? So I think I'm just going to call on people like it's law school, and we'll go with Bill Gonzalez first, and we'll pull up your video if you are still here. Yes, he sure is. Great. And thank you so much. So we will have you answer for, let's see, we'll give you 90 seconds to speak on how you would handle a case involving allegations of parental alienation, or how you have or would handle those kinds of cases, starting now.
Very good. As a district court judge, there are times that cases, if it's uncontested, you can handle it very quickly. But when you're dealing with allegations of parental alienation, you need to take time on your calendar where you have time. It may take a day, it may take a half a day, but you have to have the time to go ahead and address those issues and take the time to listen to the facts and the evidence. The court can, if the parents agree, appoint a guardian ad litem. That gives the court more information than the court would otherwise have. I have been appointed at a guardian ad litem on these types of cases. I was able to talk to the child individually, separately from parents. I was able to talk to the parents separate from their attorneys. I was also able to talk to collaterals, coaches, teachers, grandparents, uncles, other individuals out there. And I prepared about a 25-page report for the court to review. The more information that a judge has regarding these issues, the more testimony that the court has taken the time to elicit from parties, that's what you need to do on these cases. They take a lot of time, and when you're making a very important decision, which is going to impact the decision of, you know, the impact of a child and a relationship with both parents, that's very important. So those are some of the things that I've done and I would continue to do.
Let's see, let's go ahead and we'll ask your opponent as well to see if she has anything to add on this particular subject. So Dawn Throne will spotlight your video. Dawn, what are your comments about how you would handle cases involving allegations of parental alienations? You can go ahead and start 90 seconds now.
Well, it's easy to allege parental alienation when a child is resistant to seeing one parent or another, but nothing can substitute for a judge actually taking evidence, having those parents on the stand, subject to cross-examination. It can help to have testimony and information from mental health providers who've seen the children and the parents interact, but you cannot delegate your decision-making authority as a judge. You're the one who takes the oath. You're the one that has to hear all that evidence and make a decision. Some of our judges don't like to have those trials and don't like to make decisions, but you have to. That is what we're required to do, is take that evidence and hear it. You can't just listen in a motion hearing and make a determination if one parent is actually trying to alienate the child from the other parent. You've got to hear that testimony.
Thank you, Dawn. So it sounds like in order to address parental alienation issues, everyone needs to have an evidentiary hearing. We have to have a little trial about it. And that's a great idea because obviously that's an important thing that is an allegation. I'd like to ask the next question a little differently. So the question is does a family court judge get any further education specific to handling family court cases? But I'm curious, first of all, do they? And if they do or don't, will you get more? So I'm going to move on to Department W and ask those questions of Department W. So Adriana Rincon White, we'll pull you up first. Okay, perfect. So yeah, so do family court judges get any further education specific to handling family court cases? And if they do or don't, will you get more? You can go ahead and start your answer now.
Very good, thank you. There's actually the Judicial College in Reno where all new elected or appointed judges are required to attend. It was 2 weeks, 2-week course that is now expanding to 3 weeks. When I was appointed to my hearing master position, I was actually referred to Judicial College as a new judicial officer where I took a Family Law 101 course, basically. Those courses are ongoing. I've taken several since then, and they always encompass all the aspects that touch upon families, such as domestic violence, parental alienation, and so forth. So our education and our training is always ongoing. We still have to complete CLE courses just like every other attorney, and Judicial College is a big component of that and is required, and obviously always encouraged to go beyond what the minimum is.
Thank you so much. And Stacy Rocheleau, since you are also in Department W, we will give you 90 seconds to address the education that judges get and what you would do as a judge to further your own education. So your 90 seconds will start now.
Thank you, Alexis. So for family law attorneys, we have an annual family law conference, and that's usually held in the spring of every year. Unfortunately, this year it wasn't held because of the quarantine, the COVID. But every year for 2-3 days, the family law bar gets together and meets with judges, meets with experts in the field, and reviews all aspects of family law, everything from evidence to bias on the bench to business valuations to complex custody, including parental alienation, which we know as pathogenic parenting. And so that family law conference is very vital to experience in family law. Also, at the end of the year, we have an advanced family law seminar, and that is a full day. And that's something that usually the advanced family law practitioners take advantage of. And that also covers more advanced topics, such as complex custody situations, again, business valuations, high net worth asset division, things like that. So in addition to the Judicial College that Adriana talked about, those family law seminars and the family law conference are two things that most family law practitioners do take advantage of.
Great, that was perfectly 90 seconds. Good job. So the next question, I mean, I think I may ask this a little differently as well. So what exactly specifically does the best interest of the child mean? And so I will move on to Department X to ask that question. So we'll start with Heidi.
Thank you.
And I think so. Yeah, so what are some of the factors that you're considering when you're thinking of the best interest of the child? We'll give you 90 seconds to start that answer.
First and foremost, a judge can enter temporary orders, but to make a custody determination, if there's no agreement, an evidentiary hearing or trial is required. We look at the statutory factors that are set forth in NRS 125C00354, I believe, which sets forth about 9 or so factors that we look at. For instance, we look at the age and capacity of the child. That's one of the factors. We go down through the list, and when judges do that best interest analysis, there's a preference, a statutory preference in Nevada for joint physical custody. So we have to go through that analysis and our findings of fact and conclusions of law before we make any decision. And we looked at the facts and circumstances and testimony. And as Ms. Throne said, we do have to take all evidence. It is the judge's decision to decide. And we need to make those decisions timely and efficiently because they affect children and families. And as Mr. Davis has long said, that goes forward, not just this time, but down the road as well.
Great, thank you so much. Mr. Davis, we will give you an opportunity to address this same question. Spotlight video, just give me 1 second here. You can go ahead and start your 90 seconds now.
All right, thank you. And Heidi was correct in the statute. But there are 12 factors to be considered in the best interest of the child. And and those aren't the only things you can consider. It's basically an open playing field. Those are the ones you have to make specific findings on. And so there's, in addition to what Heidi said, there's also an opportunity to do a child interview and find out how the child feels. I'm not a big advocate of children being involved in courtrooms or testifying at all. But there is always the opportunity to appoint a guardian ad litem and to find out how the child feels. But all the factors are considered in the best interest of the child. And then after the evidentiary hearing, the judge just needs to decide and be decisive and make it clear to the parents why that decision was made with specific findings.
Great, thank you so much, Jim. Let's see, we have a pretty broad question that I think we can start maybe from the bottom up. We'll start with North Las Vegas. So question is, how do you think race impacts the justice system, and what do you plan to do as a sitting judge to address those issues? So we will pull up Belinda Harris first, go from the bottom. All right, so Belinda, if you can go ahead and answer that question, how do you think race impacts the justice system, and what do you plan to do as a sitting judge to address those issues in 90 seconds starting now?
I do think that race impacts the justice system, and what I plan on doing is hopefully being able to have the bold, tough, and honest conversations, because I bring inclusion and diversity to the bench as being a Black woman who is a public defender. So not only do I bring diversity from being a woman and a Black person, but also thought. So what I plan on doing is hopefully having the bold, tough, and honest conversations so we can address the issues head on, because everyone has inherited biases and we need to make sure that they're not affecting the way they judge individuals that come before them. And hopefully I can make people comfortable enough to have those conversations so we can address those issues. So that would be my plan, to work with my colleagues to make the bench better. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, Judge Sullivan, we will give you an opportunity to answer this question as well. There you are. So yeah, you can go ahead and start your time now.
Well, like I say, I've been recently invited to be on the racial ethnic disparity review team with Tick Seegerbloom. So I'm very excited about that, because we're going to look at 7 points throughout the criminal justice system, from arrest to pretrial release conditions, to charging, to trial and sentencing. And we're going to review, analyze, and hopefully make recommendations to those particular agencies involved in those particular points, if you will, on how decrease racial and ethnic disparity in the criminal justice system. I do believe it impacts our system from stopping somebody on the street to arresting, and for people being unable to afford monetary bail to get out of jail. If you're unable to afford monetary bail to get out of jail and you remain in custody, you're more likely to accept an early plea, even though you might have defenses to your case. And there are studies that show that people that are in custody when sentenced actually get sentenced to prison longer than when people are out of custody. So I think those are all issues we need to be looking at as criminal justice system as a whole, and particularly judges and the agencies that are involved in the criminal justice system.
Thank you, Judge Sullivan. Appreciate that. We have another family court question. So we'll get back to Family Court Department Z and start with Shell Mercer. And the question that has come through is, how would you handle high conflict parents who willfully refuse to cooperate with the other parent? So we will give you 90 seconds to address that question starting now.
Actually, I'm very good at handling high conflict situations. That's one of the things that I am good at. I'm not good at several other things, but that's one thing that I'm good at. The way I do it is communication. I think communication is one of the most significant, most important things in family law that is necessary, because I think that people get into a lot of trouble with their communication skills. And I've spent a great deal of time improving mine over the years. And I believe that I would talk to people, I would question them, and I'm very good at diffusing high conflict and mostly communicating with them, talking with them, and explaining to them that a lot of that the way they handle things, the way they communicate different things can adversely impact the family, and that the children are being harmed. And it's, for example, you can say the same thing in a different tone, or, the difference between fighting words and putting somebody in a defensive position as opposed to just rearranging your words in your sentence. And so I would spend a great deal of time trying to work with families like that.
Great, thank you so much. And we'll pull up Romeo Perez to answer the same question. So if you're sitting on the bench, how would you handle high conflict parents who willfully refuse to cooperate with the other parent? You can start your 90 seconds now.
Family law is different, and it's because these people aren't fighting about money. We're not talking about crime. We're talking about people who have to live together forever. People talk about, well, when they're 18, they do whatever, but no, these kids will have kids, and you're going to want to show up to these weddings and to these baptisms and to these other life events. So parties need to understand that they need to get along, and in showing respect to these parties is important. I've also realized that during my experience that attorneys also set the tone. Their attorneys can either make these cases easier or they can make them more difficult. If the parties want to fight, they can fight. It'll get expensive, it'll take longer. But when you, as an attorney and as a judge, when you tell parties, look, if you can't make a decision for your family, then I will make it. All right. And that will happen with the judge. The problem with that is that when a judge tells you what you need to do, you're less likely to follow it unless you're part of the decision. And that's why I would encourage people to sit down and talk. I think that it's great that we have these apps now, the Our Family Wizard, the Talking Parents, because you make people accountable for their words.
Thank you so much, Romeo. Appreciate that. So we do have a couple of other questions. One is for all of our candidates that we've been asking all of our candidates throughout these forums is what have you done in the last 5 years to encourage women to enter the legal profession and advance their careers? So we'll start with just start at the top and go with Bill Gonzalez. And on this one, since we have a little bit less time, we'll go ahead and give 60 seconds on this one. So in 60 seconds, please tell us what you have done in the last 5 years to encourage women to enter the legal field and advance their careers, starting now.
Okay, very good. As I stated before, this isn't in the last 5 years. all the my law clerks were from UNLV. 4 of them were women. One was Black, one was Middle Eastern American, one was Chinese American. My first staff, as far as my judicial executive executive secretary, was Latina, and then my first marshal and my first court clerk were also mixed Asian. So for me, providing opportunities for women is very important. I would also go out and talk at the law school. I would mentor as a judge and as a public defender. I would mentor law students and encourage them.
Up next is Dawn Throne to tell us about what she has done in the last 5 years to encourage women to enter the legal profession and advance their careers. Go ahead and start now, Dawn.
Thank you. First of all, I always try to make myself available to younger attorneys, especially attorneys trying to move into family law area, and mentor them, because it is a difficult area and it takes practice, takes experience to do family law well. So that's it. And then in church, I teach young girls. And so I start with them, just telling them about what it's like being a lawyer, telling them what it is about getting education. I encourage girls, whether they're my clients' children, children I teach at church, to get education, as much education as you can, and then figure out what makes you happy, what makes you passionate, and get into that area. And telling them that they can do anything they put their mind to, including, I have a 14-year-old daughter. I'm always telling her that.
Thanks so much, Dawn. Appreciate that. Up next is Anna. We'll pull you up there. All right, you can go ahead and give us your 60 seconds about what you've done in the last 5 years to encourage women to enter the legal profession and advance their careers, beginning now.
I've actually worked on that since the beginning of my career. I have spoken at career days at schools throughout the Valley since I became an attorney. I actually worked at a law firm where I was the only female attorney for a long time. There were several that came in and out, but I stayed there for 10 years. And I served as a role model to younger employees. One has gone on to law school. She was a female Latina, involved heavily with the Hispanic National Bar now. Another one was a male student, but he was Hispanic, and he is now an attorney, actually a clerk with a federal judge. And then I've also sponsored and been participant in the Andale Law School, the fundraiser for the Latino Bar Association for the LSAT. So I pride myself in being a role model, and you need to influence everyone to advance in whatever it is that they wish to do. And not everybody's a lawyer, but other people can work in different capacities in the law. And I have served as a motivator for that.
Great, thank you so much. Up next will be Stacy Rocheleau. Stacy, go ahead and tell us in 60 seconds what you've done in the last 5 years to encourage women to enter the legal profession and advance their careers. You can start now.
Thank you. So one of the things that I am most proud of would be my affiliation with SNAWA. And over the last 5 years, I've been on their board of directors and have served as their president for the last 2 years before giving up my title in May to Jori Spangler. And one of the things that SNAWA does, as you all know, is the Miriam Shearing Gala, which is coming up here very, very quickly. And all of the proceeds from the Miriam Shearing Gala, that the money that we raise goes to law students. And we would give out 4 to 5 scholarships every year, and that they're to female law students. So that there would help further their education. Also, SNAWA has a lot of good programming for women to help advance their careers. Things like estate planning, evidence discovery, gender bias, work-life balance, things like that that would help women advance their career.
Appreciate that. On to Department X. We'll go with Heidi Almase first. And just give me one spotlight your video there. All right, great. So tell us what you've done in the last 5 years to encourage women to enter the legal field and advance their careers starting now.
First and foremost, I have 2 beautiful girls who are considering law school, so that would make them second-generation lawyers, and I'm really proud of that. Second, I have spent most of my time addressing women who have backgrounds like me who didn't have high school degrees and assisting them with obtaining a GED, whether it was mental health or substance abuse diversion programs. And by doing that, I made getting a GED a part of their case component requirements rather than fine fees assessments or classes, because I think that's really important. I also believe that as women, we have an obligation to help each other. We build longer tables, we open the doors, and we hold our hands out. And I've had a long practice of doing that within the legal community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Up next will be Jim Davis, who will answer for us in 60 seconds what he has done in the last 5 years to encourage women to enter the legal profession and advance their careers. You can go ahead and start now.
Thank you. Basically, what I've done is not gender specific. I've done a number of open houses and open forums at the LGBTQA+ community center, and specifically to their youth groups, and encouraged everyone that attended those seminars or open forums to pursue a law degree. In addition, I'm very proud that 2 of my legal assistants working with DeVry University have gone on to be paralegals, and the only reason they haven't gone to law school, it's cost prohibitive to them. And so that's what I've done to encourage women to enter the legal field.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Up next will be Shell Mercer. All right, Shell, go ahead and tell us in 60 seconds what you've done in the last 5 years to encourage women to enter the legal profession and advance their careers, beginning now.
Okay, thank you. I've appeared at many career days for Clark County School District. I love doing that, talking to the children, getting to think forward about things that they're going to do in the future. I've been recognized for my volunteer work as a mentor for UNLV law students, as well as a mentor for other students as well, and also for women who have just taken and passed the bar exam. I've been a tip mentor for years for that, and I've also taught at UNLV in the as an instructor for the paralegal certification program, and encouraged a number of students to continue on to become lawyers, and one's a prosecutor right now. And I've also taught at the community college as well. So.
Great, thank you so much. We do have, let's see, we've got Romeo Perez. We'll ask you this question, and then we have one other question that we want to pose to all of the other female candidates up for family court, because we ought to the other ones. So, but first, Romeo, you can tell us in 60 seconds what it is that you have done in the last 5 years to advance the profession, or advance women in the legal profession, starting now.
If I can tell you, I will brag about my 15-year-old daughter, who is vicious. She is so driven, so motivated. I love her because she is going to be a lawyer. She'll probably be Attorney General, if not President of the United States. She is definitely someone who has inspired me to be helpful. Like I mentioned earlier, I mentor. I've worked with La Voz and Weyes, but I've also been a mentor to the Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts. That's so important to me because at a young age, whether they decide to go into law or not, they see that there are people who look like them who can do this. There are people who can be judges. There are people who can be lawyers. That's so important for them to have a mentor, someone that they can look up to in the community. And that's what I've been able to provide to the Boy Scouts, the Girl Scouts, the Boyd Law School through the Weyes program, and at Cristo Rey High School right now, where I'm a current mentor. So that's what I've been able to do over the last 15 years.
Great, thank you so much, Romeo. Judge Sullivan will ask you the same question. Go ahead and give you your, where'd you go? I gotta start your video, Judge Sullivan.
Well, I think women are doing just fine in the legal profession. Our bench is 80% women. There are 12 women and 3 men. So, but in the, just on what I'm personally doing with the Clark County School District mentoring program that I deal with, they try to pair up a mentor with a mentee with the same interests. And so I have mentored several girls that are interested in law enforcement or the legal career. One of my superstar mentees, she did get her degree in criminal justice, but law school was cost prohibitive for her. And as Jim Davis said, somebody else, and now she's a city marshal for the city of Las Vegas. So You know, my niece, she interned with me during college, and now she's a 3L at the University of San Diego, which is my alma mater. So I think women are doing fantastic in mentoring other young girls to get into the legal profession.
Great, thank you so much, Judge Sullivan. And last but not least on this question is Belinda Harris.
Hi, thank you. What I do for women is I try to live my life by example. So what I am is I'm a fearless woman, unapologetically. And I think that walking in that confidence attracts other younger women to me who I mentor and help all of the time, all of the time. And so I just try to live my life as a fearless woman, letting nothing stop me.
That's great. Thank you so much. So the question, so we only have sort of gotten around to a couple of the candidates to ask about how they see race impacting the court system and what they plan to do about it. So I'm just going to ask a few more folks that. First things, we'll ask Adriana Rincon White. So we'll pull her up here and see if we can't get a response. So this was a 90-second question. Adriana, so the question again is, how do you see race impacting the court system, and what do you plan to do about it if you are a sitting judge? You can start your timer 90 seconds now.
Okay, well, that's actually one of the motivators that caused me to run. District court, at least in the family level, does not, in my opinion, reflect the community which we serve. There is not one African-American judge sitting on the bench now. There's only one Hispanic judge, Vince Ochoa. There's Judge Cheryl Moss, who's Filipino, who's retiring, and the rest does not reflect the 20% of the Hispanic community that comes in to the court, not to mention the other ethnic groups. I think understanding culture is very important when rendering decisions, because we are supposed to make decisions in the best interest of families, well, more specifically children. And for that, I think having cultural awareness of how different cultures operate within their families is very important to understand. I was born in Mexico. I learned English when I started school here in the United States. So I bring my personal knowledge about how cultures who immigrate to this country need judges who understand and have compassion and consider those things when deciding cases, not for favoritism, but to shed some light onto considering culture when it comes to rendering decisions. I think we have a huge issue with language barriers as well. And you need to be comprehensive of people who need interpreters to function in the court and not use it as an intimidation factor and not make them feel less welcome when they walk in with an interpreter.
We'll go ahead and also pass it to your opponent in Department W, Stacy Rocheleau, to have Stacy answer this question as well, how she sees race impacted in the courtroom and how you would address it, starting now.
I do see that race is impacting in the courtroom, especially in family law. We've got, it's an economic factor as well. And we've got 50 to 60, upwards of 70% of all of our litigants in family law are representing themselves. And those tend to be, those on the lower socioeconomic spectrum. And race sometimes does play a factor in that. And so the sitting judge needs to be aware of that and needs to be able to direct these litigants to the self-help center for help with their cases, or to encourage pro bono by allowing pro bono attorneys to go first in their courtroom. Things like that can help these pro bono litigants, since we do have such a high percentage of those in family law.
Great. Thank you so much, Stacy. We got a great comment, Facebook comment from Nevada Court Watchers Administrator Mark B. Sierra. He says, just a note of thanks for running and wanting to serve the community. I think people underestimate how difficult it is being a judge. Thank you all for signing up for what must be a thankless job most of the time. Good luck to you all. And thank you, our Nevada judges, for the amazing coverage. So thank you for that Facebook comment. The next department that we'll ask this question about, we'll go on to Department X. So Heidi Almase, we'll ask you the same question about how you see race impacting the justice system and what you plan to do as a judge in order to address those matters. You'll have up to 90 seconds starting now.
I think it's a great question. I'd like to echo Judge Sullivan's statements. We do have a great bench. Women are doing well, but I also agree that we need more diversity on the bench. I think that's really important. I don't agree necessarily that all folks that come into the courtroom, I don't think there's necessarily a correlation between race and socioeconomic status. I think we see folks of all types, and we need to be culturally competent regardless of who is in front of us. I think that's our obligation as judges. We have to sit fairly and impartially. We have to hear based on the facts and circumstances and apply the law. But I think we need to be sensitive in terms of different backgrounds, how people feel when they come into the courtroom. I agree with Adriana that interpreters is a place where we need more work. We need to make those services more readily available at low or no cost for every language that comes into our courtroom. So that would be something I would work on specifically. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. Jim Davis, we'll give you an opportunity to respond as well. All right, you can go ahead and tell us where you see race impacting the justice system and what you would do as a sitting judge to address it, beginning now.
Thank you, and I agree with all the previous comments about this question. You know, it's not enough to just say you're colorblind and to move on, because when you're colorblind means that you don't see the racism occur. And one of the things I would do is be anti-racist and call it out when I see it and correct it on the spot, because there's no room for racism in the courtroom. There's no room for racism anywhere. And so luckily I've lived all over the world. Every place I've gone, I've integrated myself into the communities. And so we're a multiracial, multicultural society. And I'll bring those tools that I learned overseas to the courtroom with me.
Great, thank you so much. We'll move on to, I don't believe I asked this question of Department U, so we'll pull up Bill Gonzalez and give Bill Gonzalez up to 90 seconds to tell us how he sees race impacting the justice system and what he plans to do to address it if he is called to the bench, starting now.
Very good. I saw it every single day as a juvenile public defender. I represented 2,000 children down in juvenile delinquency court. That's part of family court. Most of the children that I represented were Black and brown. We partnered with community organizations and leaders to get mentors for these children. We had the program, you know, the truancy program to keep the children in school. Generally, if they're not going to school, they're getting into trouble one way or another. So that's something that I have done. Also, there was a Supreme Court, the Nevada Supreme Court had a program, the One program. I would, as a judge, go around to different law firms and promote that each attorney would take at least one case. As a private attorney, I take cases every year from the Legal Aid of Southern Nevada, and I always take Spanish-speaking clients. There is a long list for people to get appointed a pro bono attorney. That list is even longer for Spanish-speaking attorneys. And so when I help out, I always help with Spanish-speaking clients because they don't have that ability to have a counsel there. As far as other things that you can do to make sure, I believe what Jim says is very important. If somebody even remotely goes that way in court and they bring up race as an issue inappropriately, as a judge, you have to set the tone and you have to address that immediately. I have done that many times right there in the courtroom.
Thanks so much, Bill Gonzalez. Dawn Throne is up next, and we'll give Dawn a moment to chat about how she sees, make sure, Dawn, there you go, unmute yourself, perfect. So we'll go ahead and let you have up to 90 seconds to say, you know, your thoughts on this particular issue about race and how it impacts the justice system and what you would do if you were called to the bench, starting now.
It's always hard to go last on answering a question because everybody else had great answers. Yes, it's definitely an issue. Family court would deal probably more with gender bias, but there is an ability to understand where people are coming from, whether it's a different culture, different religion, those kind of things. And it's about educating yourself, listening and learning to people in those different communities so that you can work on that, and always being constantly on guard for when stereotypes are coming into your play. I mean, I can say more stereotypes about gender, but you have to be careful of stereotypes coming in about other things, ethnic groups, religion, immigration status, all of those things you have to be aware of as a judge and fight against those on a daily basis.
Thank you very much. And I think we still need to ask this just of Department Z, just to get their thoughts on this question. I think it's a real important one. And I think gender also does play into it. So up next, Shell Mercer will give you up to 90 seconds to address how you see race impacting the justice system and what you would do to address it starting now.
A few years back, Judge Steele provided a seminar regarding race that absolutely changed my life. As a pro tem hearing master, I was at a attend seminar, and it changed my life. And I told this story many, many times to different people in different scenarios. I was curious as to why I needed to go to this seminar. I didn't understand at the time, but when I left there, my life was changed. I had no idea that so many people see life through a different filter and of my experiences. I grew up in a racially balanced environment in San Antonio, Texas, but I did not realize the disparate treatment of so many people of color, different races and experiences that I had. It has changed my life, and it has led me to explore that further, to continue to reach out and engage in courageous conversations and education along those lines. And I intend to continue to do that when I'm on the bench and engage in that at a higher level.
Great, thank you so much. And last but not least on this question, we will call up Romeo Perez to give us his thoughts about how race impacts the justice system and what he plans to do on the bench to address any issues that he sees. Go ahead and start now, Romeo.
So I don't need a class to tell me what the racial injustice is. This is mine every day, my practice. I deal with clients every day who have problems getting services. I have problems getting therapists who can handle their children or their cases. I have clients who have problems who can't get the drug rehab right away because they speak Spanish, or they don't have insurance, or they don't have the finances to self-pay. That is racial injustice, and that delays cases for reunification in the abuse and neglect courts. That delays cases when you have to deal with custody in divorces or custody courts, where you need a therapist or somebody to help with reunification with a parent who's not been around. All of these are delays. And as far as the language, there are only a handful of judges who speak Spanish, and we cannot always count on the interpreters. It is my experience as a lawyer that the interpreters catch 99% of everything, but there's sometimes those things that you have to catch as a lawyer to know that the judge didn't get the correct interpretation. And it may not be the exact word for word, but more the connotation. I've had hearings where we've had to talk for about 5 minutes as to whether or not the two interpreters agreed as to what the clients were saying. Racial injustice only gets solved when you have diversity on the bench. And that's when judges are seen that look like the litigants, that can help the litigants feel at ease with what they're doing. That's what I bring to the bench.
Thank you so much, Romeo. Appreciate that. Well, we're getting really close to 1:30, and I haven't seen any more questions come through the chat. Pam, did you have any quick ones?
No additional questions.
How about you, Dee? Any questions?
May I ask one of Romeo? May I ask one of Romeo?
Certainly.
Is it appropriate for a judge to be communicating with litigants in a different language, or does the judge have, even if you're understanding them, are you supposed to be communicating in English?
Absolutely not. You make a record in English. The record has to be in English if it's taken up. But you can't help as a judge, and I've had judges who stop. It's the job of the attorneys to then say, "Hey, judge, let's have a sidebar." The interpreters have a conflict in what they believe, and I've had these trials where that happens. But no, absolutely not.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I had a case. It was only an arbitration, but everybody was speaking Chinese, and we had one interpreter down at the end of the table, and it was crazy. Okay.
And there is our president, Jori Spangler, to give us the final send-off.
It was honestly like one of those bad movies with subtitles where everybody agreed to have one interpreter Some spoke Shanghainese, some spoke Cantonese. They agreed on a common language. They would talk for 5 minutes and the interpreter would go, no. It's like, you missed something there. Anyway, so that just made me kind of think of that. So anyhow, thank you everybody for coming to our very final Judicial Candidates Forum. I really appreciate all of the insight from the candidates and the special challenges that are being faced on the family court bench, because it's a lot different than what I see in the civil side. So again, thank you very much. I hope that you can join us for the Miriam Shearing Gala. Again, thank you and have a great day. My phone's ringing. Gotta go.
Thanks, everyone.